Mesdames et messieurs, Monsieur Kevin Costner. Thanks for being here with us today. I'm going to open the floor to questioning in a moment, but I just want to come back on these images that I saw of you yesterday after the screening. You look so moved, you look so touched, and I'm like, you've been in this adventure for 35 years now. There was many obstacles, and it was a difficult journey. So I wonder what came through your mind yesterday when people were standing and applauding as they were.
My feeling is that I would hope someday that you have a feeling like I had that night, last night. It was a remarkable moment for me. I found myself going back in time as I looked at the people. I thought they gave me such joy, and I felt so much love, and I didn't expect it, and I started to walk my life backwards, thinking, how in the world did I get here? How in the world did this night end up like this? And the idea that my children were there watching was very special for me.
All right, we're going to open the floor. Rodrigo?
Hi, Mr. Costner. This is Rodrigo Fonseca from Correio da Manhã, Brazil. I would like to ask you about the amount of research required to write such a complex epic. Beyond your imaginations, which books, which films, which maps were required to write this story?
Yeah, I deal with a lot of my research because it comes from paintings. Luckily, the camera was back in the 1800s, so I was able to use black and white for my costumes. Costumes are always really important to me, but the different books, they're numerous. I've just all my life read about this time, so I just drew on everything.
All right, we got a question right in the middle here.
Sorry. Hi, Fabian Winter for Latin America. I have to say that with my wife, we always wanted to name our son Kevin. We had, and I know that you have...
It'll cause you all kinds of problems.
Why? But the thing is, do you realize what the power that you have in people? And also, if you could tell the story that you name your son after one of the characters of this movie.
Is that what you want to name your son now? Okay, no. What about the...
Can you tell us a story that you...
Yeah. This started for me in 1988, and there was the character Hayes. And it's funny, it's probably the same thing for you, which is something we should keep in mind. I have this kind of worldwide fame, but if you can drop that for a second, we have so much in common. I have trouble with my children. I have trouble with everything. And I had trouble making this movie, but for whatever reason, I kept the name Hayes was part of my journey, that I wasn't going to let go of this character, Hayes Ellison. So I started this in 1988, and I couldn't meet it. But I wouldn't fall out of love with it. I couldn't make it, but I wouldn't fall out of love with it. I don't know what that says about me, but I couldn't fall out of love with Hayes. And so at a certain point in my life, 15 years ago, I just named my son Hayes because I couldn't let go of it. And then all of a sudden, I put him in the movie. That was the little boy. I don't know if you know, but did you all see the movie?
Yes, I did.
The little boy who would not leave his father is my son, and he'd never acted before. And I don't automatically give parts to my children because I know how coveted this is, and there's young people that would do anything to have a part in a movie. And I want those kids to emerge. My children, if they're not interested in the business, I'm not going to automatically give them something, because I know there's other people that this is a dream for them. But I'm also a father, and it was a part that wasn't that long, and I wanted him to be close to me. I was away from home. I needed my family close to me, and it was a way for me to trap him and have him close to me. And I thought he was just beautiful in the movie. He's what the movie at that moment is exactly what I want film to be about, which is you hated that he didn't get down and that he didn't go with his mother. You hated it. You were saying in your mind, no, 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 go with your mother. But yet he stayed with his father. And you couldn't help but admire that too. And so you had this one idea, and then you had this idea that he wouldn't go, and you admired it. But then there's a third element. Once you get past that, you realized he made a mistake, a fatal mistake in that one decision. And that's what appeals to me about Western movies, that if you create the right architecture of a scene, we have a tendency to think of Westerns as they're simple. They are not simple. They're complicated. Living in Cannes, in Paris, in Los Angeles, that's simple. It's not that you don't have trouble. People have trouble in every decade, every century. But the West was terribly complicated. You had people who didn't share language, who were at odds with each other. There were guns. There was no law. Try to live in that kind of environment and see how simple it is. So when Hollywood makes simple Westerns, they're not appealing to me. They need to have a level of complication. Something has to be at stake. And it's hard to write a good Western. I don't know if I wrote a good Western. I wrote the best Western with John Baird that I could write, that had a level of compassion and humor, and would it translate? I didn't know. I wrote a Western with John Baird that included women as being the biggest part characters in the movie. It made sense to me. Of course, I'm going to have gunfights. I'm going to have the things that Westerns are known for. But I'm going to also have a scene about a woman from Europe who doesn't know the rules of the West, who just felt so dirty that she wanted to put warm water on herself, to clean herself, to just be clean, to feel the idea of being clean. There's a lot of people that would say, you can't have that scene. We don't need that scene. What's that scene doing in a Western? Well, it seems to be the most logical of scenes that would be in Western. How did these people clean themselves in this environment of constant dirt, of constant dust? Is she any different than you? She's not. And that's why I think those kind of scenes should be in a movie. Movies have to have something in common with you, or you lose track of what you're watching in the dark. Go, who the fuck is this? Who are these? It's when we recognize ourselves is when we can create moments that we'll never, ever forget.
Barbara Gassa-Maxima from Austria. I'd like to ask you, Kevin, about the financial troubles. You mentioned troubles earlier, so I want to talk about the 20 million that you put of your own money into the movie, and part 3 and 4 are not even financed yet. So on this level, I would like to ask you, how can we relate as ordinary people with you, where you put so much money into a film that's worth it, making your legacy, with us who don't have that much money, but also sometimes struggle financially?
I play a lot of rock and roll, so I don't hear all that well. So I'm going to ask him. You talk beautifully, and I'm going to give you your answer just as soon as I can understand it. Yeah, I don't know why it was so hard. You saw the movie. I don't know why it was so hard to get people to believe in the movie that I wanted to make. I've made movies before, you know. Don't think my movie's better than anybody else's movie, but I don't think anybody else's movie's better than mine. And I think that I make it for people. So it's a pattern for me. It's happened with Dances with Wolves, Field of Dreams, Bull Durham, the Open Range. It seems to be a pattern that some of the things that I like are harder to make. My problem is that I don't fall out of love with what I think is something good. And so I try to go the traditional way. I mean, I look out in this harbor, and there's so many boats out here, and there's so many billionaires. There's probably no billionaire in here with us. And I'm thinking, yeah, keep dreaming. So I feel like I should come to Cannes, and I should come to Monaco and say, hey, billionaire, do you want to be in the movie business? Because I have 4 Westerns. And what will come back is, well, why should I invest in a movie when maybe the studios don't? That's a very good question. That's actually a very good answer. But all I can say is, I believe in it. I believe that when these lights go out and we're in a movie theater, something magical can happen. A curtain can open. Remember the curtain? Does your theater have a curtain anymore? We don't. In America, I don't know any theaters that have curtains anymore. And as a child, I loved that. And so part of why I wanted to make 1, 2, and 3, and 4 was to make it for myself, because I know what it's like to sit out there in the audience and the curtain open and something magic's going to happen. And a story is going to transport us. It's going to take us to a place. And pretty soon, we have to leave the theater. Not before 3 hours. We'll stay in the 3 hours together. Not always, but. And then we have to go do our jobs. And then we have to go get our kids at school. And then we have to go do something. But the movies have always been a place for us to go have a chance at magic. Something that we'll never, ever forget. And so I have made the second one already. I've filmed it. And now I'm trying to make the third one. And I've knocked on every boat in Cannes to help me. Come, we'll have a picture. I said, no, come get your checkbook out. I want to see. Let's talk money. I'm by myself a lot, and so what I have is I've had good luck in my life, and I've acquired some things, land, some homes that are important to me and they're valuable, but I don't need 4 homes like anyone, and so I will risk those homes to make my movies. I wish I didn't do it because I want to leave those homes to my children, but my children will have to live their own life. And if I have not made a mistake, they'll still maybe have these 4 homes. And if I've made a mistake, I'll say, you have to live your own life. I've lived mine, and I'm really happy. I will have to figure out with my friends, with the things I own, how do I make 3 to bring this back here? I would like to come back here for the 3rd movie. Cannes has been a partner to me. This film festival that you have, it might be a good place to come socially, to have drinks, to meet people, meet girls, meet boys, whatever. But for me, Cannes helped give my movie life. In theory, I can't thank you enough. Are you somewhere in the room?
No, he's not.
He left. Fuck, he's drinking somewhere. He doesn't care what I say. Cannes was important to me. It's made a difference. The things that, and you have the right to write whatever you want about the movie, but there's people have said some really kind things about this movie, and it has made it back to my country. And I'll tell you one last thing to your question. This is why my movies are long. I answer long. Is Dances with Wolves, Open Range, two very American movies, right? Now Horizon, the first money I got was from overseas, not even my own country. All three. Thank you.
Chaz, please.
Hello, Monsieur Kevin Costner. I'm Chaz Ebert from RogerEbert.com and the Chicago Sun-Times. My question for you is, between about 1990, Dances with Wolves, to today, what have you learned about yourself and about the making of Westerns that made this so different? Why is Horizon so different than Dances with Wolves? Also, what is your own obsession with the West? And for instance, and why did you feel that you wanted to have more of a representation? I saw Black people in this movie. I saw Chinese in this movie that hadn't been in some Westerns when we were growing up. Why was that so important to you? And in parts 2 and 3, will the Black people and the Chinese people have more speaking roles?
You got it?
I think I got a lot of that. Her question as long as mine. Number one, I
Let's start
appreciate that.
The third part about diversity in the film.
What's that?
Let's talk about the third part with the diversity in the film and the role of Black.
Yeah, but you asked about what's the difference between Dances and Horizon. I think for me there's no difference, but for you perhaps there's a difference that I believed that the Native Americans in Dances Wolves should be very well-rounded people. I didn't think I was breaking ground. It's just the way I wanted to see them. It made my story better to me. Before I gave you the story, I decided it needed to be good for me. I've brought every trick I can. I shot Dances with Wolves in 106 days. I shot the movie you saw that's arguably bigger in 52 days. It was my money, it was my partner's money, and I was trying not to waste it, but I was trying to not shortchange you on anything that I thought should be in there. The West, you notice the West is very heavily in women in our movie. African Americans, Glenn Turman comes into number 2, and an actor that I desperately want will come into 3 and 4 that ultimately ends up being the first mayor of the town. I'm conscious of race. I lived in a place called Compton, California. I funded a movie called Black or White. It was my version of a level of racism that exists in our country, Compton and Beverly Hills. So I can't, I can't fill every box every time I try to make a movie, but I'm absolutely conscious of what's at stake and trying to represent people. And the Chinese were a very important part, and they were of it. And African Americans obviously, began to populate the West. So they're important to me, and I probably fail and succeed at every turn, but my aim is true.
Sir.
Thank you for the excellent film.
Go for it.
Thank you for the excellent film, and I would like to ask you mainly about the excellent choreography of the characters and also the idea of the frontier that somehow it's inside the deepest core of this film, the frontier, the horizon, something that is so unique in the American history, traumas and environment.
What's your take on the idea of frontier, horizon, something that's so
Right.
unique to America?
Well, you know, America 200 years ago, 300 years ago was kind of like the Garden of Eden. You had Europe, you had the rest of the world, and there was people here that if they could get across, they were starting to hear stories that if they could get across this ocean safely, and who's to say that trip was even going to be safe? Did you take a look at the fucking boats that went from here to there? Would you do that? But people who wanted a new life would. They would risk everything to go to this place that didn't even have a name. It was just kind of a myth, and it really was a myth. Come to this place, there's 90 million buffalo. Come to this place, you'll never see a building. It was true. You had Europe, you have Africa, you have the Middle East where civilization began, big buildings. And when you go to America, there was nothing there. And so the idea of the horizon that's out in front of people, it was a myth. People tried to explain it to other people. You can go to this place. And if you're strong enough and you're mean enough and you're tough enough and you're resourceful enough, you can carve out a life for yourself. There were so many people in Europe that just looked at their wife and said, we need to go there. We're going to be third-class citizens under this monarchy or under this kingdom or whatever it was. And this great movement came to America. There was some kind of promise. But the reality was, though, this land that if you were smart enough and you were mean enough that you could take, you'd be taking it against people that have been there for 15,000 years. And we had a consistent march across America where we destroyed over 500 cultures. We had the same thing in our history called slavery. And the world was working that way, and we've still not recovered from that or that war, that civil war. And I'll just tell you one more fact. The only reason the West lasted as long as it did was because of the Civil War. They were busy fighting, and at that point, there was no army out there to protect all these immigrants that were moving west. There were small forts like what I show that if you listen to the language carefully, the lieutenant says, you know, only 40, 50 people attacked this town. There's probably 3,000 others that didn't touch this thing at all. And if we're not careful, they'll rid us in a day's work. I hope you revisit Horizon because words are important to me. I like gunfights too. I like them. But I like language that identifies things. And so the idea of Horizon, and it's kind of nice to know that you preserve the heritage of buildings here, sacred. In America, we have a lot of land, and it just got gobbled up. And I appreciate that in America, we're starting to really value land for other generations to go look at. And this movie, hopefully, is a postcard. When you see those locations, they do exist. These rivers run. These mountains have never moved and never will. And it's important sometimes to just not build there and let future generations see. There's two great scenes in Horizon, and I came back a year later shooting two, and there's warehouses there. But not in the movie, it's there forever. And that's what movies can do too, is preserve a way of life. Bless you. That was really loud. That was louder than this. don't come close to this mic.
Monsieur.
Bonjour, Monsieur Kevin Costner, Laurent Ganastia pour CNews.fr. Bravo et merci pour ce très très beau western. Je voulais vous
I'm
poser-
really going to need your help.
Thank you so much for this plan.
Je voulais vous poser une question un peu personnelle au niveau de votre travail. Comme pour beaucoup de vos projets, vous en êtes l'initiateur, le producteur, le co-scénariste, le réalisateur et l'un des acteurs principaux. Parmi toutes ces étapes, quelle est celle où vous vous êtes senti à la fois le plus inventif et puis surtout le plus heureux?
Wait just a second. You know French very well. I'm going to talk to him about the few mistakes you've made.
He says that you're very involved in the creation. You are producer, actor, director, and writer. In all those works, which one is your favorite? Which one do you feel the more creative?
Yeah. I love the dreaming part of movies and of the writing of them. I love what happened last night. I love seeing my children dressed up. I love seeing other people dressed up. The red carpet is an incredible thing. But if you're only in the movies for the red carpet, for the glamour of it, for the whatever that comes with the fame, I had the most beautiful room, and I really appreciate it. But I like to think I got to this place because I like the work. I like the dreaming part. I like the late nights, both of directing and of editing and of writing. I like that part of it the best.
Even when you have to wake up at 4 a.m. and it's raining like crazy, and you're going to be all day in the mud, and you
Did you ask me what I did at 4 a.m.? I can't tell you that. Not in front of
on
all
the
these
set.
people.
All right.
No, what were you going to say?
No, I mean, even when you're working like crazy on the set and it's very difficult, you prefer that to the red carpet yesterday?
Did I do
You prefer the work even if it's really difficult?
I do have an answer for that. You know, sometimes I used to get no money to do this. Then I used to get a lot of money to do this. Now I have to pay my own money to do this. but the thing that happens, and I swear to you, I don't think I've ever said this in a thing. I have a thing that almost happens to me every morning or every day at work. There's one moment where I feel like I solved something, and I'm literally so happy, and I think you earned your money today. Because I can just repeat myself all day long, but sometimes there's a problem that needs a solve, and I think, I solved it today. And when that happens, when I find a moment, or I help another actor find a moment, or I move the scene to a different spot and it's more beautiful, I feel like I earned my dough. I earned it. It's not casual for me when I'm out there. My attention is all over the place.
We got time for one more question.
Hello, Mr. Costner. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I want to start by saying I really respect and admire the film. But we talked a little bit about representation already. I want to press a little bit on the Native American representation on this film. I wonder if in part 2, part 3, we will see more of them and more of their perspective instead of them being more antagonistic presences in the story.
Well, in 4, they become very, very dominant. In 2, they're the little boy you see with the hat is now a 24-year-old. So I have to find an older one. The little girl, blonde girl, she's another actress is playing her. The little boy that thinks he wants to hunt Indians himself now because his parents are killed. He's now a 24-year-old. So there's a progression of people. You know, the movie is a journey. It's not a plot movie. And the Native Americans are represented. I don't feel the need to try to balance the story. I mean, a lot of people talked about Dances with Wolves as being a Native American story, and I said, no, it's not. It was a story about me. It was a story about a cavalryman who just went out to the West. The difference was the people that he ran up against, I tried to make look like people. So the feeling was, well, it was their story. I couldn't, for one, begin to actually know, you know, to be the person that sets the record straight for Native Americans or for African Americans or for anybody. I just try to make it as real as I can, you know. I didn't make Black or White, which is a story that deals with racism from a black point of view. I made it from the point of view of myself and how that, you know, was gone, and my best depiction of people that I actually have contact with. I think a movie is just more interesting the more real people are, you know. And the Native Americans are in 4 much more heavily than they are in 2. They're in more in 1, less in 2, and 3 it's about the same. And 4 they're very dominant.
Where are we now? Are you done with number 2? You shot it, and you're going to start shooting number 3? Is that what's happening?
No, I have a little more. I literally shot 3 days of 3, believe it or not, before I came here. I shut my movie down, which is unheard of, to come here. It was so important for me to come to a place where movies are viewed in a very open way. This was important to me, to be here. And I'm going to leave here, and I'm going to go back and start directing again and go as far as my money takes me. I'm thinking that we all went out together into this harbor and we stood in front of one boat and didn't let those rich people off. And we can tell them, look, you can dress up, you can walk on the red carpet, you know. Look, this is my journey. It's hard, but I feel lucky to have found this business. It's part of my journey, this struggle. But I'm not struggling anymore about chapter 1. It's out there. I did my best. What is that? Who knows? I did my best. It's done. And 2, I'm doing my best, and it will be done. And that's all we can do. And being an actor, being famous, that may be how you look at me, but it's not how I look at me. I have children that are succeeding in school, succeeding in their school plays. I still watch the little ones, you know, at Christmas time, and when they know the words, help them sing them. Rudolph the red, get your hands up, you're the horns. Red-nosed reindeer. And I'm, like every other parent, sitting in the front row, recording everything. You know, we are connected, and I'm never going to forget that, and you shouldn't either.
Monsieur Costner, one last thing. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Merci, Kevin. Thank you so much. Bravo for the film again.